What is going on, everybody? I know we're a little early, but we're here for the Jets post-game. We're live with you Stadium today. Luke and Clay with you to Play Like a Jet live team, live with you Stadium. Clay, that was an exciting game. I know it's still kind of coming to a conclusion now, but everything you want to see out of preseason football is the young guys doing well, the rookie class, Zach Wilson, and we saw all of that tonight.
Who would have thought that with the 2 years of Adam Gase and the low-scoring offenses we had, that we would be calling a 10-7 game exciting? Obviously, everyone's just hyped because of the new coaching staff, the new quarterback, just a lot of young players on this team, and we're gonna dive into it. These young players showed out. I know the score doesn't seem like anyone had a good game, but that's quite the opposite. There were a lot of young players that had some really nice plays and stuff that they can build off of in the next couple of weeks leading into the season.
But we're going to have to start with Zach Wilson because that was the storyline coming into the game. Obviously, Justin Fields played really well in patches today. So there was this whole ridiculous narrative going on Twitter. What a surprise. Let's start there. Before I do, just anyone, if you're watching, you've got comments, throw them up, splash our producer. If you have questions, he'll flash them up on the screen. So make sure you're commenting. Let us know what you thought of the first preseason game. But back to Zach Wilson. He went 6 for 9, 63 yards, 7 yards per attempt. He just checked all the back boxes for me, Clay. I was really impressed with his throwing on third down. He had the laser over the middle to Cole. He hit Davis on a third down. He just looked poised in the pocket. As you mentioned on Twitter, you didn't see LaFleur look to roll him out a lot. It was win within structure. Let's get the playbook down. Let's see how he lives within the pocket. And he just did everything you needed to. He wasn't spectacular, but he was really, really good.
Yeah, he did everything that you needed him to. Like, he was accurate, he was decisive, and like you said, he looked poised in the pocket. I mean, you look at Darnold when we had him, and he, like, sometimes he looked poised, and other times he would just kind of look rattled, like he didn't know like where to go with the ball. And Wilson, no matter what, he just looked comfortable in the pocket, and it's exciting to see. And this is his first game in the NFL, and there was that one third down play. What was it, 3rd and 14? And who was it? The left guard got blown up. I think it was Fanfini. Left guard got blown up. There's a guy right in his face and completes it almost for the first down. They ended up not getting on 4th down. But no, I mean, I think he looked really impressive. Nothing crazy, nothing flashy. He didn't throw the ball 40 yards down the field to have a Trey Lance type of play. He didn't run in a touchdown like Justin Fields. But for what they asked him to do, he looked really impressive in his first game in green and white.
And you saw that connection carry over, Clay, between him and Corey Davis.
Oh, yeah.
We've heard for the last week now, Corey Davis is starting to make some noise ever since the green and white scrimmage all the way through until 2 days ago. In the red zone, he's been everywhere, and you saw that connection today.
Yeah, that's one thing that shined too. I mean, you could tell that they're going to – I mean, I know everyone's talking about Elijah Moore, but Corey Davis and Zach Wilson are building something special. And now that Elijah Moore is hurt, I hope he's not hurt for long. I don't know what the injury really is. I just know it's a groin. Maybe I missed something the last day or two. But with Corey Davis, they're going to build some chemistry. And Davis is going – I think he's going to earn that money that he signed for. He's going to earn it. I think he's going to be a good player for this team. And we're going to hit on this in a little bit, but without Denzel Mims really having a key role in this offense, Corey Davis is the only other real big body on this offense. So I think he's really just going to take over and be that true X receiver that the Jets have been lacking for a while. And who knows, maybe we have 2 legitimate X-type receivers with Elijah Moore too. I'm excited.
Yeah, it is a really exciting time. Something that wasn't too exciting was the tight end group. We might touch on them later. Not a lot of talent in that group for the Jets. We knew that coming in, but that was kind of emphasized today. I wanted to pivot now defensively and talk about one group that stood out for me. And I think coming into the offseason, if you said the Jets linebacking group was the star of the defensive show, people would have said that is insane. There's no chance. CJ Mosley hasn't played forever. It started on the first play of the game. CJ Mosley tipped a ball, nearly intercepted it over the middle, did a great job, and we've seen a ton of that in training camp. You had the 2 young guys, Hamza Nasruddin forced a fumble, had a pass breakup, and then also Sherwood had a pass breakup on a diving play where he nearly intercepted a ball. It's so pleasing to see those guys, Clay, just showing out their athleticism at such an important position with the group.
Yeah, and actually before I'll talk about that in just 1 second. We just had a safety in the game.
Hey,
Another sack with Jonathan Marshall. So now he has 1.5 sacks on the game. And Hamilcar Rashid, he was a part of that as well. So now it's 12-7 instead of 10-7. Making it a little more exciting. But yeah, I mean, the linebacker group looked good. I mean, like you said, Mosley on the very first play tips the ball almost. I don't know. I kind of missed it. It was a little blurry for me in my stream. So I don't know if he almost intercepted it. Sherwood, he literally almost intercepted it. He was so close. If he was if his arms were just 2 inches longer, he had it. And then Hamza, obviously, he had that forced fumble at the goal line. That kind of changed the game a little bit. So yeah, the linebacker group, it's going to be fun. I mean, I know we didn't see a lot from Gerard Davis. I didn't really focus on the linebacker group unless the ball was in their area. So I don't really know how he played. Or Blake Cashman. I know Cashman played a lot of the second half.
Mm-hmm.
But no, and it's exciting because these two young guys, Sherwood and Hamza, they're going to get playing time. They're going to get playing time because we just don't have a lot of depth at the linebacker position. Whether it's Mike, Will, or Sam, there's not a lot of depth. So seeing these two guys make plays in their first game, Hamza's barely played in the last 2 years, and he only played 2 games last year for FSU, coming back from the knee injury. So this is one of his first games back, pretty much, and it's nice to see. And then Mosley, he looks good. And slimming down to I think 230. They said on the broadcast tonight from a normal 245, 250. He looks good. He looks fast. You wouldn't think that he's now I think he's just under 30 years old, or he's at 30 years old. You'd think that he's getting younger with the way he's moving. I'm excited. I hope we can get that Buffalo Bills game, CJ Mosley. But right now I'm just excited, man. I think it's all over my face, and I'm tired.
Someone else who looks good and looks fast is Scott Mason, the king of Play Like a Jet. Make sure you're listening to his podcast every single day. He drops an episode. Scott, I know you can hear us. What were your early takeaways? Welcome in. What did you think of the game so far tonight?
Well, first of all, Luke, thank you for saying that I look good and fast. I'm glad you noticed. Also, it's nice to be able to talk to you after Chris Walker and I were messing with you in the group chat about that. So
that hurt my feelings.
That was good too. But yeah, no, I mean, listen, the main takeaways, I think you guys hit on a lot of it, and I'm going to talk to Andy Vasquez about this on the post-game show, which should be up a little bit past midnight. Zach Wilson looked good. He looked poised. He looked confident. Didn't do anything fancy, but as you guys said, he played within structure and did what he needed to do. I think that as time goes on, Clayton, you and I were joking about this in the group chat. You'll see more from him. I think you'll start to see LaFleur trust him more and empty the playbook as time goes on, but they weren't going to empty the clip in this one game. But for what he was asked to do, I thought he did really well. And he interacted well with both Davis and Crowder. I thought, especially Davis, that relationship has been building. We heard so much about the relationship between Elijah Moore and Zach Wilson that it wasn't until recently that people started to pick up on the relationship between Wilson and Corey Davis. And somebody said this, and I don't think necessarily that it's a stylistic thing, but as far as the actual signing and what the guy could mean for the offense, I forget who it was, but somebody said that Corey Davis could be kind of like what Eric Decker was for Geno. And I could see that. I could see Corey Davis coming in, being that really, really good, not quite Pro Bowl, not quite all-pro type guy, but a really good weapon in the offense that clicks with the rookie quarterback. So that was nice. And then as you guys said, Hamza Nasruddin and Jamie Sherwood, I was really encouraged to see them play well. I think Hamza is going to be a day one starter, which for a 6th-round pick is fantastic. We saw Bryce Huff make a nice play. He had a sack. Mm-hmm. CJ Mosley looked back to form, as you guys said, way down in weight now. He's almost built more like a safety than a linebacker, but it seems to work for him so far. So overall, and as you said, in later times now, Jonathan Marshall flashing a little bit, and we're seeing some things from Hamilcar Rashid Jr. So the young guys showed up and played well, and that's really what you want above everything else. By the way, Ty Johnson, I know that there were some plays where he got stopped, especially on that 4th and 1, which was the most predictable call you could ever come up with. But he looked pretty explosive, which matches what Chris Nimbley's been telling me from camp. He says that Ty Johnson looks very explosive, and I'm not sure whether this should be something that I should have in the back of my head as far as Chris paying a little too much attention to it, but he keeps mentioning Ty Johnson's thunderous thighs and how thick and powerful they are, which again is a little weird that Chris keeps keying in on that, but you saw that tonight. So a lot of positive signs. You guys, I'm sure, agree. Who cares what the score was? You just want to see how these guys look. And I thought for the most part, you saw a lot of promising signs from this team, especially the young talent that you're looking to see this team grow with. The one thing that I thought was weird, and Luke, Chris and I were obviously teasing you in the group chat about this, but I do wonder what's going on with Denzel Mims. Yep. Josh Malone was getting playing time over him. Jeff Smith was getting playing time over him. I wonder if it's just the food poisoning thing, if that they're bringing him back slowly because he's regaining his strength. If that's not the case, then it's got to be concerning, because if it's not the food poisoning, then something is off. He's got to be in the doghouse for some reason if it's not because of that. And I'm not sure what it is, but I'm hoping that it's just the food poisoning thing. It's weird. Who would say, oh, I'm really hoping that it's because he had food poisoning? but that kind of is where I'm at with Mims. I'm hoping that's the reason that they're sort of holding him back. So that's the one thing that kind of concerned me a little bit. But other than that, you had to like what you saw tonight.
Yeah, and actually, sorry, I want to hit on the Denzel Mims thing real quick. Me and Luke were talking about it before we hopped on air. After tonight's performance, you have to see him get more playing time, whether it's in practice or in the games. He has to get more playing time. He was the best receiver out there once he started stepping onto the field. There was no debate. And I know Vincent Smith, he actually didn't play all that bad. I mean, he had a tremendous play on the special teams. But no one brings what Denzel Mims can bring to the table. And I'm not saying he's like the way I said that, it seems like he's like Julio Jones. He's not Julio Jones, but he brings a lot to the table that this offense could really use, especially a young quarterback like Zach Wilson. So I think after tonight, we'll start to see Denzel Mims get more and more reps in practice. At least we'd like to think so. If not, I mean, Saleh has some explaining to do as to what's going on. If it's the food poisoning, please tell us. If it's something else, please tell us. We have to know why Denzel Mims isn't getting the reps I think he deserves.
Yeah, I don't want to hear any more that it's not a scheme fit. He can run after the catch. We saw it today. We saw it a little bit last year. It's an intriguing situation and definitely something to watch. But another thing that the whole league is going to be watching in the next couple of weeks is the Jets' defensive line. They were without Quinnen Williams today. I don't think Carl Lawson played a snap. If he did, he played 2 or 3 at the start of the game. Mm-hmm. You had Bryce Huff had a couple of sacks. Scott, you already mentioned Jonathan Marshall had a sack and a half. You had Hamilshad Rashid had a sack and a half, including the safety. These guys got after the quarterback. John Franklin Myers got on the quarterback's elbow, forced the ball up in the air. These guys terrorized, a bad Giants offensive line, but without their 2 best players, that was pretty impressive, Scott.
Jonathan Marshall's a really weird case because if you look at him, his athletic numbers were off the chart, and he actually had production to go with it last year. And on top of that, he was a team captain. Mm-hmm. So you look at that and you say, how does a guy like that go all the way down in the 6th round? You would think he would have gone higher than that just based on his athletic profile. And yeah, he's still a little bit raw, but man, that's a guy that if the coaching staff figures out what to do with him, he could be a really nice piece on what's already the most deep position on the roster. And then with Hamilcar Rashid Jr., as you said, I mean, these guys, I was joking about it before, and everybody always says this, but it's true. They were going up against guys that are going to probably be selling auto insurance in a couple of weeks. But at the same time, you do have a guy in Hamilcar Rashid Jr., who we know 2 years ago was one of the best pass rushers in college football. Last year, he regressed. There were a lot of reasons that people came up with for that. He was asked to do different things. They also had a weird makeshift schedule. The whole thing was kind of crazy last year. So he was somebody that you looked at and said, this is an intriguing guy. They're very thin at that spot at edge rusher. So I know he wasn't facing the most impressive competition, but if he can show you some more over the next couple of games, the next 2 against Philadelphia, and I can't remember who they're playing next week, but if he can play well in the Green Bay, yeah, that's right, because they're doing the joint practices. If he can play well in those games, we'll see, because clearly if he can capitalize on that momentum, they could use somebody that brings what he has to the table. So it's going to be fun to keep an eye on these guys. Like I said, Marshall is really an interesting guy. In the one thing that's bad for him is that obviously they're so stacked at that position. But when you look at his athleticism, when you look at the fact that he actually did have production last year, and then his character's off the charts as a team captain, it stands to reason that there's a reason that they grabbed this guy and that he could actually do something here.
Can I ask you guys a question? And this may be like a hot take or something. Do you think it's possible that Jonathan Marshall takes Nathan Shepard's spot?
It's going to be intriguing to see how it plays out. Let's talk numbers. The Jets are going to carry 9 or 10 defensive linemen. They're going to start Huff, Lawson, JFM, and Quinnen Williams. And then when JFM slots inside, Fola Fatukasi is going to play. So there's your top 6 guys. You've then got Shepard. You've got Blair, the guy out of San Francisco playing on an edge. You've got Zuniga. You've got Marshall. You've got probably 10, 11 guys fighting for 9 or 10 spots. I'm not sure what your take is on it, Scott, but I think it's going to be really interesting because Nathan Shepard actually showed something in the end of last year, the Canadian Thor, or Thanos, whatever they call him. But I think Marshall has a shot. They drafted him. You talked about his resume and his pedigree, Scott. I think there's an opportunity that maybe Nathan Shepard doesn't make this roster.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The thing that'll be sad for Nathan Shepard, though, is I don't know if he's quite there yet. He might be a year or two shy of collecting Social Security. So if he doesn't make the team, he's going to have to get a day job, which is going to be really unfortunate. But, yeah, no, I mean, he did, like you said, Luke, he showed something last year. He popped a little bit, and I would assume that he'll make the team, but you never know. I'm curious to see, like you said, what happens with Jabari Zuniga, because honestly, what did we see out of him? He didn't do anything last year. I haven't heard much about him in camp this year. I know he was hurt. So I'd like to see what he does the rest of camp and then in the rest of the preseason. But that could be a situation where if Marshall is thoroughly outplaying him, or if Hamilcar Rashed is thoroughly outplaying him, maybe he's one of the ones to go, because that's one of those situations where you've got to do a good job of self-scouting, and you hate giving up on a guy a year after you drafted him in the 3rd round. But sometimes you just got to, one of the ballsiest things you can do as a general manager is to recognize that you made a mistake and move on from it earlier rather than holding on to somebody that you really shouldn't, because your own foolish pride won't let you admit that you made a mistake. So I'm not saying that that's necessarily the case with Zuniga, but if they come out of camp and out of the preseason games and they don't see much out of him, and obviously he didn't do anything last year, and Marshall's doing better than him, or Hamilcar Rashed, at that point, maybe you make that ballsy move, and Joe Douglas shows you that he's one of those guys that's okay with admitting that he made mistakes and says, you know what, I know I picked this kid Marshall in the 6th round, or I know I didn't even use a draft pick on Hamilcar Rashed, but they're getting the job done to a degree that Zuniga just isn't, and I've got to go with one of these guys over Zuniga. So, yeah, I think Shepard is a possibility, but I think he probably sticks just because, like you said, he showed some things, and again, I think they don't want to be guilty of elder abuse. They want to make sure that their seniors are protected here. So I would think he probably makes it, but you never know. And then I think Zuniga could legitimately be in jeopardy if he doesn't show something.
Yeah, with those two guys, starting with Zuniga, obviously, as you both know, and as a lot of our viewers probably know, I'm a big Gator fan. But I mean, I lost a lot of faith, and like I was telling Luke beforehand, like I kind of saw this coming in Mobile too. Like he was at the Senior Bowl, he was at the practices, and he was just not performing. He just wasn't. He seemed like he was a little overmatched, to be quite frank. And while I was happy that the Jets drafted him because he's a Gator, I mean, I was a little like, I think it's a little too early for him. And at this point, me and Luke were saying like he actually could get released and be brought back onto the practice squad. Like I don't know if anyone's gonna claim him or sign him after he gets cut right away. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him on the Jets practice squad in a couple more weeks. And then going with Shepard, yeah, like he might have shown some things last year, but you got to remember he's also a free agent after the year. do they want to risk losing Jonathan Marshall, who has a great athletic profile, who was drafted in the 6th round this year, rather than keep Nathan Shepard, who's going into his last year of the contract. He is about to hit Social Security, and and quite frankly, like he's been okay. Like he's shown a couple good games out of his 3 years so far. I don't know if that's worth keeping instead of a guy like Marshall, who does have a lot of upside in terms of his athletic ability. He's great on and off the field in terms of his character. He is a guy that Saleh drafted. Saleh and Douglas drafted. Shepard has no connection to either of them. So I'm not saying that I think Marshall's going to make it over Shepard. I just think there should be a pretty good case that he does.
So you might have seen on the bottom of the – well, go for it, Scott. Finish it off.
Luke, I'm sorry. I just want to jump in really quick with a thought. If you remember a couple of years ago, the Jets got Nate Hairston from the Colts. And what happened there was they liked Hairston. He was a solid player. But the problem for them was they just had too many defensive backs that they like. And if I recall correctly, there was a rookie that they had gotten either late in the draft, or it might have even been an undrafted free agent who played so well that it kind of forced their hand. And you might be looking at a similar situation here where maybe just as the Colts traded Hairston to the Jets for a conditional draft pick, perhaps if the situation that you're talking about, Clayton, arises where they say, we like Shepard, but we'd rather roll with Marshall. Maybe they see if they can get somebody to give up a conditional pick for Nathan Shepard. And much like Hairston, who was going to be a free agent at the end of the year as well, there could be a team looking for a veteran defensive lineman. They think they could get something to Shepard, and they might say, yeah, sure, we'll give you a conditional 6th, or we'll give you a conditional 7th, or something like that. So that's something to think about if that arises where they feel that maybe Marshall is the better guy to hang on to than Shepard.
I'm going to end it right here. Nick Foles for Nathan Shepard. Boom.
Done. Sign me up.
Oh, Luke, you're muted.
Sorry, guys. One of the reasons that Nathan Shepard and Zuniga are in trouble because of Bryce Huff, you might have seen on the bottom of the screen, Denzel Mims burner came in, Salmon Jets 718, and asked about Bryce Huff's contract. So he's in year 2 of his undrafted free agent contract. So he's got a couple of years left here for the Jets. So he's still on contract. It's very, easy to maneuver contract, very minimal. He's on like probably 700,000 to 800,000 a year. So he's a low end cost deal. And if he's a starter for the Jets and offers something, that's going to be huge. But a lot of the success of this defense, Clay and Scott, is going to revolve around the corner group. And I thought the first 3 or 4 corners in the game played really well. Javelin Guidry, we talked about it, Scott, on the podcast 2 days ago. He's been phenomenal, and he had a great pass breakup today. I thought Bryce Hall was solid. Bless Austin was solid. The one issue I had with how Saleh used the corners was that Lamar Jackson got in the game before Pinnock and Eccles. Eccles, again, fantastic pass breakup, had that deep ball down the field. He played it like the receiver. He was phenomenal. Scott, I'll start with you. What did you think of the corner play overall tonight, and who kind of stood out to you?
Guidry for sure. I thought Guidry did really well. It's funny because last year he got a fair amount of play at the end of the season at slot corner when Poole got hurt, and it wasn't a huge sample size, but from the small sample size you saw, you're like, okay, maybe this guy could be something. I wasn't sure that you could necessarily extrapolate that to a starting job, but then when you hear how well he's looked at he's done at camp, how you see how well he played today, and between him and Michael Carter, it looks like that slot corner spot could be in good hands. And right now, you'd have to figure that Guidry is the front runner for that spot, and so that was good to see. And then, Lamar Jackson was the one that stood out in a negative way. It's funny. You would have thought that they'd have learned from last year's Raiders game not to put him in cover 0, but apparently they didn't learn that lesson. So that happened again today. He seems like a great kid. I mean, I loved his attitude after what happened in the Raiders game. Most guys, especially who are of low stature, would have wanted to crawl under a rock, but he stood there. He took questions. He took accountability for it, even though it was really Greg Williams' fault for taking an undrafted free agent rookie and putting him one-on-one with a guy that has Henry Ruggs' speed. And so he's a very likable kid, but at the same time, I wonder if he has any place on the active roster here. So that was the one that stood out in a negative way. But yeah, I thought Austin was okay. I thought that Hall was pretty solid. I'm still not huge on Bless Austin. I think he's more of a depth piece. And you're right, Luke. I was kind of surprised that we didn't get to see Pinnock and Eccles earlier.
Did we even see Isaiah Dunn tonight?
No, he didn't dress tonight.
He didn't. Okay, yeah. I was wondering where he was, but I didn't see his number pop up anywhere. But no, I mean, I agree with you guys. Javelin Guidry, he had a great third down PBU early on. That might have been, what was it, the second? Yeah, the second possession. He had a great PBU on third and short to make it a fourth down. So, I mean, unfortunately, it means Michael Carter won't be getting the corner spot. But no, I mean, yeah, I'm curious to see how Pennick does in the rest of the preseason. Eccles, did he have that DPI?
Yeah,
he did. So was that on him, or was that the refs, or I didn't see that one?
It was touch and go. They called it like an arm lock. They said he kind of locked the arm in there. It was there wasn't a ton in it, but it's one of those red zone plays. It probably gets let go, but that's been such an emphasis for the referees this year, talking about locking the arms and that arm on arm combat. So it wasn't a huge deal for me.
Yeah, he's gonna be a raw player. He's very, very athletic, just like a lot of guys that they drafted. So I'm curious to see where he fits in their mind in terms of when they get down to this 53, because pretty soon they're gonna have to make these decisions, and they gotta kind of pick out the guys that are fighting for those last 1-2 spots in that cornerback room.
A couple of things on special teams tonight. Chris the kicker stinks. We figured that out. His 53-yard attempt was terrible. Braden Mann looked better than he did the end of last year. Had that really nice punt that Vincent Smith dragged back in the end zone. But I think Brant Boy is just going to have this as a really good unit. Unfortunately for us, we saw Denzel Mims running as a gunner in the first quarter, which was devastating to my heart. But I think the Jets special team unit's going to be pretty good. Scott, what do you think they do about the kicking situation? Do you think they're going to have to look for something outside of these guys?
Why couldn't they have just gotten Jose Borregales?
Yeah.
I know my broken record on this.
Option.
I just don't get it. Like, what I would be doing if I was the Jets, truthfully, and I'm being serious here, is I'd be sitting back watching what goes on in Tampa, and whoever they move on from, I'm trying to get that guy, whether it's Borregales or Suckup. Look, if they decide to go with Borregales because he's going to be cheaper or whatever, and Suckup comes loose, look, he's a solid veteran kicker. Go grab him. If they keep Suckup and they get rid of Borregales, the guy was the best kicker in the country last year. Mm-hmm. Go get him. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I mean, you keep hearing that this kid Amendola has a leg, but whenever you hear people talking about how big of a leg a guy has, but you don't hear the accompanying. Right, yeah, John Hall. Although ironically, John Hall is one of the better kickers they've had, which is John Hall was one of those guys. He used to crack me up because he'd nail a 53-yarder and then he'd miss a 32-yarder, and you're like, what is this guy doing? But yeah, no, I mean, Nagar isn't any good. It's funny because you try to talk yourself into it when they got him. It's like, oh, he's got a big leg, and and then you look at his kicking stats, and you're like, yeah, these are not that impressive. But you want him to be good because you really want that kicker situation solved. And in my case, I was so annoyed about Borregales that I was just trying to talk myself into, well, maybe they got a hidden gem. But yeah, I think they're going to have to do so. I mean, I think they should do something. I'll rephrase, because I've said the last 3 years in a row they're going to have to do something, and then they didn't, and they went with Sam Ficken or some other bum like Kari Vedvek or whatever the guy's name was. So I think they absolutely need to do something, but maybe they continue to just go with whatever bum of the week they have, which I'm not trying to be a jerk to those two guys, but I'm certainly not impressed with Nagar, and with Amendola. I don't know. There's a reason he's been floating around, so we'll see. But I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that whoever doesn't make it out of Tampa ends up here.
Yeah, I mean, I give you a lot of props for saying Chris the Kicker's name. I'm not touching it, even though I know how to say it. I'm still not touching it. But no, I mean, we'll see what's going on with Amendola. I mean, obviously he's been kicking well in practice. Granted, practice is practice. Games are different, as Corey Vedvik could tell you. But no, I do think Borregales is going to be the one that's free in Tampa. Ryan Suckup, they signed him to a deal. Was it this offseason or this offseason before?
The one before, I think.
This offseason.
Yeah, one or the other. Either way, they signed him to a contract. Like, I don't think they're going to just, especially if it was this offseason, they're not letting him go. They're going to cut Borregales. Maybe they could keep 2 kickers if they want to try to trade him for something. And that's not out of the realm of possibility, which would be I think it'd be stupid, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. But I do think Borregales will be available at some point, and hopefully, if Amendola doesn't run away with it, hopefully they can get him. But just FYI, he was the 2nd best kicker in college. Evan McPherson was the best.
Who won the award for best kicker in the country?
Who cares?
Okay. All right.
All right, we'll call that 1-0 to Scott. Some other good news. We just saw it flashed on the screen there. Dennis Wozak, who joined us on Play Like a Jet last week, he mentioned that Elijah Moore is day-to-day with that quad injury. Saleh's hopeful to get him back next week. So that's huge. Heading into the Green Bay practice, would great to see him out there against another football team, getting reps, getting familiar with Zach Wilson again after having a couple of days on the shelf. So that's a huge win for us. And let's use this as a time to transition now looking forward, guys. We liked what we saw today out of Zach Wilson, out of the rookies, out of the defensive line. Mekhi Becton looked good early. What do we want to see next week? We've seen the baseline for Zach Wilson. What are you looking at and looking for in the week of practice with Green Bay and in the game? Clay, I'll start with you. What are you hoping to see from the New York Jets, improvement-wise or something to build off of?
Honestly, I just want to see Zach Wilson build off of what he did tonight. I like seeing him play in structure because we know what he can do out of the pocket. Get him comfortable inside the pocket because that's where you win football games. I know the flashy plays are out of the pocket on the run, but where you win football games is in between the tackles. So I want to see them build off of that. Maybe take a shot next week because I think the furthest pass attempt he had was maybe 20 yards, and I think that might be generous. So I would like to see him take a shot, but that's obviously more so pertaining to Zach Wilson. But yeah, these young guys, just keep giving them reps, especially in the secondary. I just want to see them try to find who belongs in this team and who belongs in the NFL, not just this team, but in the NFL. But yeah, I'm just going to keep watching these young guys because obviously we might have the youngest roster in the NFL. So this is an exciting time to watch these kids because this is where they can get all their kinks out. But next week, we won't be going against Aaron Rodgers. It's just going to be Jordan Love. So hopefully they don't get torched too badly.
What about you, Scott? What are you looking forward to, looking to build off of maybe that you didn't see tonight?
I think we have to keep our expectations reasonable. And by that, I mean, I'm personally hoping that Zach Wilson can build upon what he did tonight and obviously be way better than Aaron Rodgers. If he can do that, then I'll be pretty happy. And I think that's a reasonable request because that Rodgers guy is over the hill. What has he ever done in the NFL anyway? But no, in all seriousness, I do think that if Wilson continues to build on what he did tonight and like Clayton said, maybe open it up a little bit more, we'll probably see Elijah Moore for the first time. So like to see that connection. Continue to give carries to Michael Carter. Let's see what he can do. Yep. And just the young talent on defense too that we talked about, whether it's Hamilcar Rashed Jr. or Jonathan Marshall or Bryce Huff. Let's see more of those guys. Let's see some Pinnock and Eccles. Let's see more of them. Yeah. Let's see Javelin Guidry and Michael Carter II. Let's see these guys continue to make plays. I think that's really where we have to be at as fans right now is, as you said, this is one of the youngest rosters in the league. It's a team that if these guys all turn out to, or at least most of them turn out to be at least something close to what we're hoping for, then the Jets will be in good shape for a long time. So you just want to see each week in the preseason and then building into the regular season that all those key building block pieces continue to gel and continue to get better and mold and kind of get to the point where they're molded into pieces that the Jets can use not just this season but for seasons ahead. And it's going to be a process. It's going to be a week-to-week process, and we want that process to continue in week number 2 of the preseason.
I've got another one. What about AVT? I mean, we just saw a comment flash on the screen.
Bring him up. Yeah.
It's a guy we haven't mentioned. We saw Dan Feeney get run over today and he
Yep.
got bull rushed back into the quarterback. But look, AVT's coming back, Clay.
Yeah, I mean, everyone should know by now how I feel about him. I can't wait to see him play, especially next to Mekhi Becton. I don't know exactly. To be honest, I don't know what his injury is. I haven't really been keeping up with that. So I don't know how serious it is or if they're just playing cautious. But hopefully he can come out in week 2 against Green Bay and actually show what he can do in pads against another team. I'm excited for this offensive line with Morgan Moses. Obviously Mekhi Becton. I think McGovern's going to play better. Still not sold on Van Roten, but we'll see what happens there. But yes, I'm excited to see Elijah Vera-Tucker, who, yes, we have not even mentioned the entire night so far.
One thing I want to close on, guys, is a little bit of the offensive scheme that the Jets ran today. When they came out with Zach Wilson, there was a lot more 12 personnel than I expected. They had Trayvon Westco in there at fullback a ton, which I honestly thought that wasn't the case because I thought they were going to go more 11 personnel. Maybe that was influenced by Elijah Moore not playing. And then the other thing, they went empty a couple of times. I like that. They opened the field up like we talked to Tim Jenkins about. It was intriguing to see how they utilized it. But the best thing, the Jets opened up with run left, play action pass, run left. That's going to be a winning formula, Scott.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was interesting to see, as you said, those empty sets that Tim pointed out. And Tim is so great. He always knows exactly what these formations are going to look like in reality. And so I think we're going to see a lot of that in the regular season. And I do think that the return of Elijah Vera-Tucker combined with Greg Van Roten, it's going to be cool to have 2 guys on the line where you can say 3 letters for their names and you know who you're talking about, GVR and ABT.
Even McGovern.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing that unit continue to gel. It is kind of interesting, though. We saw Moses tonight, and Chris Nimbley has said that Moses has struggled in camp. And Saleh did say that it's going to be a legitimate competition between those two for the right tackle spot, which I never expected. I thought for sure Fant was going to be the swing tackle. So it's going to be a fun thing to see. Elijah Vera-Tucker next to Mekhi Becton. Hopefully that's something that we're looking at for the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I can't wait to see what the rest of the preseason has in store. As we've mentioned, all of us, myself, Clay, Scott, you have to take it with a grain of salt. This is preseason football, but seeing it, the young guys perform and do well is something we haven't seen for a long time. I really liked the play on 4th and 1 that you talked about earlier, Scott. I don't know if you guys remember, but a couple of years ago, Rex Ryan, the first player that last game in Miami, he ran an homage to the Jets Super Bowl winning team, and he came out in like the triple wing kind of offense, and he had 3 running backs. I thought it was great that Mike LaFleur paid homage to Adam Gase with his 4th and 1st down the middle of the H-back guy. So that was beautiful, a lovely symmetry. In all seriousness, you don't want to give away your 4th down short yardage plays in the preseason. So just run it up the middle and hope you get the yardage. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what this team has. If you're enjoying everything that we're doing here live with you Stadium with the Play Like a Jet team, just remember you can send us super chats, you can send us super stickers, you can send donations in the chats below. If you're enjoying our content, we want to get bigger and better. Already done some great collaboration pieces. We had CJ Mosley and Jamison Crowder on, Hunter Henry with the live draft show, and there's plenty more of that stuff to come, both with you Stadium and with Play Like a Jet. Guys, before we wrap up, are there any last thoughts you want to go over? Any other takeaways? How do you want to finish this off?
Yeah. Who's number 35 and why is he on the field?
You're not a big Walters fan, are you?
No, I don't understand it. Like that fumble still, like I'm still thinking about what was going through your mind? Like you fell down. Why are you trying to get back up and then you fumble it? And then granted, the effort was nice on that reception to get the first down. But again, he fell on his own. No one touched him. Like, what is he doing? And he's actually getting snaps over Josh Adams, who's actually had some nice runs the last couple of years with the Jets. So, I mean, I guess that we can kind of just go there. Like, we have to cut 5 guys in this upcoming week. Like, he's my number 1 guy that has to go. Like, who else do you guys think could be cut between now and that deadline?
It's a great question. I would have said Ballantyne, but he actually had a couple of nice pass breakups today.
the end,
So maybe, I mean, he gave up the touchdown as well. Maybe he sticks around after those plays. Kenny Yeboah might be in trouble, man. I know Jets fans want to like him. He had the fumble tonight. Hasn't really showed anything. That whole tight end group stinks, as I prefaced at the start of the show. Those are kind of some guys who might be in trouble. Yeah, as you said, it was very confusing, that effort on the Giants TV. Ballantyne just kind of gave up on the play. He was out of position and then didn't really fight to finish. But I don't know if you have any names, Scott, but I think it's going to be interesting to see who they trim down first from this roster and what positions they target them from.
I got one that they should get rid of. I don't know if they're going to, but how about Captain Morgan?
Whew. Man, he was just throwing missiles.
I'm just saying. I mean, what is the point of having him around here?
He might be the best defending player on the field today. Did you not see that tackle to save a touchdown? He looked like Braden Mann out there.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, him and Braden Mann. I guess Mann had a rough rookie year, but he was a great tackler. Maybe they could keep Morgan and just make him into a special teamer because he ain't much of a quarterback.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's going to be intriguing to see. But all in all, guys and girls and everyone watching, we appreciate you. It was a fantastic effort from the Jets. They won 12-7. We're not worried about the score. We wanted to see Zach Wilson, the young rookies, flourish. We saw that in spades, something really positive to build off of. Make sure, whatever you do, when you wake up first thing in the morning, check out the Play Like a Jet podcast. Scott, I think you said you're filming with Andy, recording with Andy tonight, is it?
Yep, Andy Vasquez from NorthJersey.com will be on with me. We'll go through everything that happened in the game, plus we'll have all the quotes and news from the locker room, any injury updates, all that. It should be up relatively soon, so yeah, it'll be a good one. And then again, we go right back to camp on Monday. We'll have a mailbag with Chris Nimbley because remember, there's an off day tomorrow, so obviously no camp to report on. But after that, we've got camp. And then we've got the Green Bay stuff, so we'll have some reports from there. Andy Vasquez will be in Green Bay, so we'll talk to him. I think Chris Nimbley will be there too. So it'll be fun. We've got a lot going on. And then, Luke, I know you've got a ton going on our YouTube channel. Right now we're pushing towards 1,000 subscribers, so we're going to be putting up a bunch of videos. You've been killing it with those videos, by the way. You have been absolutely killing it.
Appreciate it. Trying to pump them out. Thank goodness I've still got all 22 with International Game Pass. So that's been really lucky for me because no one else has it. So we're in a good spot. Appreciate it, Scott. You're grinding out a podcast every single day. The whole of Jets Twitter and Jets Nation appreciates it. Clay, we've got a good show coming Wednesday night with you, Stadium at 7:15. Talk us through it.
Yeah, we got DJ Bieniemy joining us next week, and obviously he keeps it real with the Jets. That's one thing I really like about him. He doesn't mince words. Like he tells it how it is. And yeah, I know people are upset because he's a Dolphins fan, but he tells the truth. And like I don't want people that just like kind of fluff up the Jet fans or really tear them down. Like he tells it how it is, and I think that's what he's going to bring to us on the Wednesday show. So definitely tune in for that.
And I also respect. I'm sorry. I just want to throw in. I also respect the fact that DJ doesn't hold it against the Jets that they didn't hire his brother Eric Bieniemy.
It's a good way to finish, guys. Exciting night for Jets fans. Zach Wilson 6 for 9, 63 yards. The Jets win the Snoopy Bowl, biggest game of the year. It's kind of like when the Mets occasionally beat the Yankees. Huge win for us tonight. Guys, thanks very much for joining us live with you, Stadium. We will see you with Play Like a Jet live on Wednesday night. Scott's got a pod dropping for you in the morning. From Clay, Luke, and Scott, we'll see you next time. Thanks very much and go.